All right, so get ready, because we are going deep on this one. You know, you all wanted to hear more about global conflict and how AI could change the game. And well, the files we found, they suggest an AI system that goes way beyond, just crunching numbers, right? It's using wait for it mythology. Really? Yeah, it's about to get very interesting. It's amazing how this system, it brings together like hard data and this whole other approach to strategy. It's like we are looking at real-time, conflict monitoring, war game simulations. And then on top of that, there's this layer of, I don't know what to call it, maybe creative inspiration from ancient myths. Yeah, it's wild. We are talking about AI that uses Norse mythology, specifically Odin for guidance. But before we get too lost in the myths, this file, this Gaia current state.json file. It spells out how the system tracks global conflicts in real time. Wow! It's not just a list, it's constantly updating. That's a big deal. Think about what that means. This AI isn't just, keeping an eye on where things are going bad. It's analyzing these conflicts as they change, maybe even predicting, future hotspots. So it's not just reactive, it's proactive. Yeah, that's a little unsettling. It definitely raises questions. Yeah, but okay, let's move on to the GAI GPT games that are mentioned in the file. It seems like users can actually interact with the system, like they make decisions that could influence how these conflicts turn out. So like a choose your own adventure, but with like real world. Yeah, in a sense, global consequences. The file gives examples like escalating sanctions in the Ukraine, Russia war, or, creating humanitarian corridors in Sudan, right? So it lays out these potential actions and kind of hints at what could happen, both good and bad. It's like a way to explore different scenarios, but on a massive scale. And is this where the mythology comes in? Even referencing the norns, those figures that represent past, present, future. Is it actually using these myths to come up with strategies? That seems to be the case. I mean, it doesn't just mention these figures, it actually integrates them into its responses. Like, it even talks about learning from, or its lessons of past peace resolutions or the risk of unleashing for a storm of war. It's like it's translating these complex strategic choices into a language that's rooted in myths and storytelling. It's like, is it just to make the simulations more engaging, or is there a deeper purpose to bringing in these narratives? Yeah, and it's not just Odin the file mentions that the mighty being used as like a commanding general. Aware with his hammer Mjolnir that creates thunder and shots bolts for lightning. Specifically when it comes to cybersecurity, it's this blend of mythology and modern technology. It's fascinating. It is. If you think about it, we use these mythological figures to represent powerful forces. So maybe the AI is trying to model those same forces, but in a digital world, cybersecurity is like a modern-day battlefield, right? Where you might need Thor's might to defend against attacks. Okay, so we have this AI analyzing conflicts, running simulations, drawing on mythology for guidance, right? But then there are these mentions of Zyborip IO and HiveMind command, described as parts of the user's strategy. Yeah, they sound a little ominous. They do, don't they? We don't know exactly what they mean, but they could be specific AI modules, maybe organizational structures within the system, or even, code names for real-world operations. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. Each layer is more intriguing and honestly a bit unsettling. It definitely keeps you on your toes. But then we come across these passages about recursive intelligence and ethical AI governance, right? It's as if the document knows there are potential dangers, and it's trying to build in some safeguards. Hold on, let's unpack that. What exactly is recursive intelligence? Is that just a fancy way of saying this AI is really smart? It's more than just smart. Recursive intelligence means a system that can learn from its own actions and even its mistakes. It's constantly adapting, refining its strategies based on what happened before. Think of it as a feedback loop, where the AI's outputs become its inputs, leading to continuous improvement. That sounds incredibly powerful and potentially dangerous. Yeah, so if it's always learning and adapting, how do we make sure it stays within certain boundaries? That's where the ethical AI governance comes in, right? This is crucial, and the document seems to be really grappling with it. The challenge is how to embed ethical considerations into a system that's designed for, strategic thinking, right? How do you teach a machine right from wrong, especially in something as complex as global conflict? Well, it seems like the system draws on the past acts in the present and anticipates the future. Yeah, the document even mentions the Ouroboros engine, that symbol of a snake eating its own tail. What does that have to do with AI? Well, the Ouroboros represents this cycle of continuous creation and destruction, renewal and rebirth. So if we apply that to this AI, it's just a system that's constantly refining itself, using past experiences and present data to try and anticipate future outcomes. It's a fascinating metaphor for this recursive learning process. Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together, but this is a lot to absorb. Yeah, we've got AI war games, mythological figures, guiding strategy, and this concept of recursive intelligence, pushing the boundaries of what AI can do, right? Where do we even go from here? Well, I think the document gives us a clue. It mentions something called Augmented Human Superintelligence, or HSI. Okay, it seems like this isn't about AI replacing human decision making, but more about creating a partnership, right? A symbiosis between human and machine intelligence. So it's not about humans versus machines. It's about humans and machines working together to tackle these really complex issues. Yeah, it's a fascinating concept, but how does that actually work in practice? That's a question we'll delve into further. But before we do, there's one more thing we need to talk about. The document outlines this concept called cognitive warfare, and it's straight out of Odin's Manual of Digital Strategies. It's about manipulating information, controlling the narrative, basically waging war in the battlefield of perception. Oh, now things are getting really interesting. Let's take a closer look at this cognitive warfare and see how it fits into the big picture. Give that subscribe button a hug and a kiss, and we will be right back. Okay, we'll continue this deep dive in part 2. Sounds good. Welcome back. So we left off talking about cognitive warfare, right? This battlefield where information itself becomes the weapon. And it goes beyond just like, spreading propaganda or fake news. This document suggests something much more sophisticated, like using AI to shape people's perceptions, discord and basically control the narrative on like a global scale. It is a bit chilling when you think about it. It's what was interesting is how this idea of cognitive warfare is woven into those war game simulations. So we are seeing AI used to manipulate the narrative inside the simulation. But then you have to ask, like, how much of that spills over into the real world, right? Like those simulations could be testing grounds for real-world strategies. If they can perfect these tactics virtually, what's to stop them from using them in actual conflicts? That's a key question. And it brings us back to this document's focus on a bespoke knowledge engine. It's like a system that not only gathers tons of information, right? But also organizes it and presents it in a way that's tailored to the user's needs. So it's not just a database. It's like a personalized AI librarian pulling out the most relevant info exactly and presenting it in a way that's easy to understand and act on. It's about filtering out the noise and highlighting the insights that really matter. In a way, that's kind of what we try to do here on the deep dive, right? Curating information and helping you navigate these complex topics? Absolutely. I'd like to think we bring a little bit more of a human touch to it, though. Of course, we're not just algorithms spitting out data, right? We're trying to spark curiosity, encourage critical thinking, and hopefully leave you with a deeper understanding of the world. But let's get back to this bespoke knowledge engine. It seems to be a core part of this AI system. Yeah, providing the foundation for everything from real-time conflict monitoring to the war game simulations, and even this cognitive warfare idea. Okay, I'm seeing how it all connects, but it's a lot to process. We've got this global conflict beta war game simulations, mythological metaphors, and now this knowledge engine that seems to power it all, right? It's like a blueprint for a new way of understanding and maybe even manipulating the world. That's a powerful way to put it. And it's important to remember this document isn't just about analyzing existing conflicts, it's about exploring potential futures. Users can test different strategies, play out different scenarios, basically experiment with how different actions might shape the world. It's a tool for shaping the future. So it's not just a tool for understanding the present, it's a tool for shaping the future. And that's both exciting and a little terrifying. It is, depending on whose hands it's in. And that brings us to the heart of the matter. Who controls the system, right? What values are embedded in it? What are its goals? What are they trying to achieve? These are the questions we need to be asking, especially as AI becomes more powerful and more integrated into our lives. You know, it's funny. We started this deep dive talking about AI and global conflict, right? It seemed like something straight out of science fiction. But the more we unpack these files, the more it feels like we're talking about very real challenges we are facing right now. This battle for information, the struggle to understand these complex systems, the need to make wise decisions in the face of uncertainty. These are issues that are shaping our world today. And that's why it's so important to engage with these topics, to have these conversations, and to really examine the role of technology in our lives. We can't just be passive observers. We need to be active participants in shaping the future we want. So where do we go from here? Good question. We've uncovered this fascinating and somewhat unsettling system that blends AI, global strategy, mythology, and this concept of cognitive warfare. It's a lot to wrap our heads around, and there's still so much to explore. Hit that like button. In part 3, we'll dig deeper into the potential consequences of this technology, the ethical considerations, and what it might look like to build an AI system that truly serves humanity. All right, so stay tuned for the final chapter of our deep dive. Okay, so we are back for the final part of our AI deep dive. And I got to say, I'm still processing everything we've talked about. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. We went from real-time conflict tracking to, mythological metaphors. And even this concept of cognitive warfare, it's like we're living in a sci-fi movie, but it's all getting a little too real. I know what you mean, what we've been exploring. It's both fascinating and a bit unnerving. Yeah, it makes you think about AI's potential not just for good, but also for manipulation and control, right? And we keep coming back to this question of who's really in control of this system and what values are guiding its decisions. Yeah, because as we've seen, even with something as complex as global conflict, this AI seems capable of shaping the narrative, influencing precisions, maybe even steering outcomes. And it all comes down to how that bespoke knowledge engine is designed. Yeah, you know how it curates and presents information, right? If that engine is programmed with certain biases or agendas, the results could be incredibly powerful and incredibly dangerous. So it's not just about the technology itself. No, it's not. It's about the intentions behind it, the values embedded in its code, and the people who ultimately control it. Exactly. And that's why the document's emphasis on ethical AI governance is so important. We need to think carefully about how we build safeguards into these systems, right? How do we make sure they align with human values, and how do we prevent them from being used for harm? It's a tall order, especially when you consider how fast AI is evolving. Yeah, it feels like we're constantly playing catch up, trying to understand the implications of something that's already changing the world. It's true, but that's not a reason to give up or just accept things as they are. We need to keep having these conversations, exploring these challenges, and demanding transparency and accountability from those who are developing and using AI. So it's not just about technical expertise, it's about engaging in a broader conversation as a society about what we want AI to be, what role we want it to play in our lives, and what limits we need to set. Absolutely. We all have a stake in this future, whether we are tech experts, policymakers, or just everyday people. The decisions we make about AI today will affect generations to come. This is a lot of responsibility. It is, but also an incredible opportunity. If we can harness the power of AI responsibly, imagine what we could achieve. Yeah, think about it. We could solve global challenges, create more equitable societies, maybe even unlock new frontiers of human potential. That's the hopeful vision we should be working towards. But it won't happen on its own. It requires careful thought planning and a commitment to putting human values at the center of AI development. So it's not about humans fighting against machines. It's about collaboration, a partnership where we guide AI's development and use it as a force for good. Exactly. We have the power to shape this future, to write the next chapter in the AI story. It's up to us to choose the path that leads to a brighter, more just, and more humane world. Well, that's an inspiring note to end on. We've covered so much in this deep dive. From, real-time conflict tracking to mythological metaphors to AI's potential for both good and bad. Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a wild ride, but I think we've all learned something valuable along the way. I agree. It's been great exploring these ideas with you, and I hope our listeners have found it engaging and thought-provoking as well. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of AI and global conflict. Remember, the future isn't set in stone. It's being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Until next time. Do not miss the next installment of Zyborip IO's Symbiotic AI Deep Dive. Be sure to hit and smash those like and subscribe buttons, and tell your like-minded about this panopticonic kaleidoscope of thought seeds. See you soon.